Faces of Abortion is the only television program of its kind that shows the powerful, real-life stories of women, men, and families who have suffered the devastation of abortion. Faces of Abortion touches hearts and changes lives in over 125 nations. Faces of Abortion is a program that will help you with healing from the heart and hope for the future. You will be given practical steps for healing in your life and help to end the suffering of abortion.
So it just overwhelmed me. And I thought the only way to escape the pain was to take my life.
I had a fear that I wouldn't be able to have my own children.
It brings heartache. It brings hurt.
And I knew they were tearing my baby apart.
I remember the cold feeling of the room.
I remember laying there and I just said to myself that I will never forgive myself for what I'm doing.
I believe that my life was spared that night just so that I could be here right now and say abortion hurts women.
Welcome to Faces of Abortion. I'm your host, Cindy Collins, and again today I'm with Alan Parker, who is president of the Justice Foundation, and Clayton Trotter, who is general counsel of the Justice Foundation. It's going to be a great show today, Alan.
It is. We're going to hear from two different women, and we're going to hear from Danelia about her abortion, and it's interesting whose choice it really was. And we're going to hear from Linda Lynn, who's been named a past Gospel Music Songwriter of the Year and Gospel Music Entertainer of the Year, about her story of adoption and the beauty that accepting life and giving life can bring.
That's right, Alan. And now let's go ahead and hear Danelia's story in her own words.
My name is Danelia, and I'm from Florida. When I was 19 years old, I was faced with an unplanned pregnancy, and I didn't know what to do. I went to my friends and my family to ask for their advice, and no one really knew what I should do. They just told me, you know, it's your choice. The father of the baby did not want me to have it. He wanted me to have an abortion, and I wasn't sure if I should do that. So I went about 3 weeks trying to think about what I would do. I would ask everyone, is it a baby? You know, I didn't even know how far along I was. I just had a positive test at home. And eventually, you know, I decided to have an abortion because most of the people told me that it wasn't a baby. And I went to this abortion clinic, and no one really spoke to me, and they just had me sign papers, and they just set me in a chair and did the procedure like it was nothing. And I asked the doctor, I remember saying, is it a baby? And they told me no, it wasn't. It's just a blob of tissue. And I thought, okay, that's okay, I'll go through with it then. When it was done, I knew that something was just terribly wrong because I felt just horrible. I was so empty inside, and I didn't realize that this is something that was going to affect me 10 years after I had done it. I went through anger and depression and shame and guilt, and I just didn't know what to do. And you know, after that happened, I just wanted to forget it. I went through just a denial. I didn't even want to think about it. And I remember 3 months after that, I got pregnant again. And everyone again told me, you should have an abortion. I only had 1 year left in college. So they said, you're never going to graduate if you have this baby. that time around, of course, I was in so much pain from the abortion that there's no way I could do another one. And so I decided to have, my son at that time. And even though I was still dealing with the pain from my abortion, I think I felt some comfort in the baby that I had after. And 10 years later, I went through Passages, which was a 9-week Bible study. And through that, I found the Lord. I found healing. I found that it was okay to come to God and just ask for forgiveness. And I was able to forgive myself through that process as well, which was something I never thought I could do. But it was still very hurtful. And I know now that, for God, life is sacred. And that not only did I ended up killing a baby, an innocent baby, that I also went through 10 years of pain, and it's something that I still have to deal with today, something that I would never forget. And when I look back, my son is now 10 years old, and I look back at my decisions and I think, there's one that I can live with, and that was the one when I chose my son to have him. And if you are out there, and if you are dealing with an unplanned pregnancy, just look at all your options. Go to a pregnancy center where you can find out what your options are. Because whatever decision you make, you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. So just make sure that you know what your options are and understand that it is a baby. So just please get the help that you need.
You've just heard Denelia's story of the pain and the suffering that millions of women have gone through from the pain that abortion causes. And I know we heard Denelia's story, Alan and Clayton, and where she said she was told that her baby was a blob of tissue, yet she also expressed that she was not told the truth.
She wasn't. And this whole episode shows many of the lies of abortion. She didn't want this choice. She didn't want an abortion. She started asking people, what should I do? Who was the first one to tell her she should get an abortion? It was the man in the situation. So who's benefiting from this decision at the time? It's the man who doesn't want the child that he should be legally and morally and socially responsible for creating through sex with Danielia. And then, of course, she then goes to the abortionist and says, is it a baby? That's what women want to know. Is it a baby? Is she shown pictures of fetal development? Is she given the truth? No. She's told it's a blob of tissue. Well, that's a lie. All of us are blobs of tissue in one sense. We're bone and cells, but we also have a soul. We're human beings. We have human rights because we're made in the image of God, or even if you don't believe that, because we're human beings. And that's because we're members of the same species, if nothing else. But of course, I believe God is the one that created that life, and we should all be protecting it.
You know, Alan, I agree with you that God is the author of life. He is the one who creates life. I mean, any of us, just look at your hand, wiggle your fingers. I didn't make that hand. None of us made ourselves. We're all creatures, and we're all created by a loving God. And we don't have the right to decide who lives and who dies, particularly an innocent life in the womb of a mother.
That's right. And then she makes the choice. Right. Everyone else washes